Who's in town?
Hey everyone, welcome back to Podcast The Sequel, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the continued. I'm Manira.
I'm Joseph.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Marissa.
And with the recent release of Wicked, we decided to talk about the unofficial sequel to Wizard of Oz, Return to Oz. So who wants to start it off?
Well, we gotta start with the original.
Yes, let's start with the original Wizard of Oz.
We gotta start there.
You don't want to start with that one? The best one?
Both
I
of them
say,
disturb me.
1939?
1939.
1939.
Mm-hmm.
$2.8 million budget, made $29.7 million at the box office. And MGM actually did not see a profit for this film until 1949 when they re-released it. Because of all the mess it took to get it. I'm sure we'll get into it, how hard it was to make this motion picture. But yeah.
Oh, there's so much going on.
So much.
Dude.
So much going on.
Shirley Temple almost was going to be Dorothy.
Yes.
That was a
Yes.
thing that was like, this movie is just, I love the behind the scenes information that's out there. Just the entire just collection of stories.
There's so many, I think there's even like myths and like legends of
Yes.
things that did or did not happen that, I mean, I feel like we could spend an entire episode just going on about the behind the scenes, just even like the spooky kind of like
Disturbing things
disturbing
that
things that may have happened, may have not happened. I only wrote down like a couple that were really like, I know for a fact happened. Like obviously like, I know a lot of people talk about like the hanging munchkin in the background kind of thing, which like is not a thing, but people are skeptical that
But
it's
if
a
it
thing.
wasn't, then why did you change it?
Yeah. Why is there a
I
giant
mean,
bird
I
right now?
don't,
Because
yeah.
everyone
I was like,
looking at it, so they're like, well, we're going to make it a bird. And now everyone's going to be like, well, then why'd you make it a bird?
You wouldn't
Yeah.
change it if
Yeah.
it wasn't
It's
real.
completely different. Like, thing.
That's weird.
Like, I remember I've seen the original. You literally just see something going like just, it's eerie, dude. Honestly, when I used to watch as a kid, it used to freak me the fuck out. I'm not going to lie. I used to be
Was there
scared.
a part though, or just like in the whole thing in general?
I used to get like a weird feeling watching it, but as I grew up, it's my grandma's favorite movie, which is. But after a while, I do love this film. It's a classic, in my opinion. But yeah, all the stories like the Tin Man, they went through two different actors because of the paint. Like, one was just stuck in the hospital. One got an eye infection. The Wicked Witch of the West had the fire,
burning.
the burning, the elevator thing, and they made her come back, and she only got paid $35 to do this film. Yes.
Oh, there's so much.
$35
I didn't know
to
how
do
much
this.
she got paid.
Yeah.
Since we're talking on the subject of how much actors were paid, can you guess how much Toto, the dog, was paid for this movie?
I like that she swiped her thing.
Yeah, I
away.
don't want you to
She
see it.
didn't want me to see it.
Toto was paid a weekly salary.
What the dog doing?
The dog
dog.
was paid. The dog was paid. You mean the owner of the dog?
No, the dog was paid.
How was the dog paid?
The dog
I
just put in
don't
his
know.
little wallet.
They said Toto was paid X amount of dollars.
Pocketing
The
his-
money went to Toto. I'm assuming it went to Toto's owner. But,
Yeah, I had to.
yeah.
What does the dog
Toto
be like?
the dog
Do you take cash or credit?
but Toto the dog had a weekly salary.
Of what?
I'm asking you guys.
No, I don't know. I mean, she got
Throw out a
$35.
Hold on, it's 1939.
I don't know. A
Yes.
week?
Yes.
I'm gonna go with.
I'm gonna throw like $1,000 a week. I don't
A
know.
grand?
a nickel.
That's wild.
A nickel?
$20.
$20? Toto the dog was paid $125 a week.
$1,000's kind of excessive,
Is that
I guess,
more
for that
than
time
However-
period. That
person
time
you were just
period.
talking about too?
That
Yeah.
sounds excessive.
The Munchkins were only paid $50. The dog was paid more than all of the Munchkins.
Well,
Like
I mean-
each Munchkin was paid $50, so I guess there was a million Munchkins.
The Munchkins were having their own good time. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I think there was like one thing that I was reading that the Munchkins were paid so little because some of them were paid in cigarettes, and I was like, wait, what?
I mean, 1939. I mean,
People were doing
At the
wild
time,
things.
you know.
And Toto has a statue in Kansas.
Toto does have a statue in Kansas.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I'll get to Toto. I'll get to Toto. So this movie was directed by Victor Fleming, who later down the line ended up actually doing Gone with the Wind as well later that year.
He
So
left
did
this
it.
film 10 days before filming was over to go do Gone
Yeah,
with the
to
Wind.
do
Yeah.
to fix Gone with the Wind is what I
And
what I
he
read.
won a bunch of awards for Gone with the Wind.
I mean, yeah, it's a great movie. So, I mean, we had a lot of great movies, I think, that came out this year. I mean, it was the last year of the Great Depression, technically speaking. So I think that this came out at a great time for everybody. Considering how depressing, obviously. I mean, it's called the Great Depression. Yeah. So I think that this would have been, I mean, I obviously it's based off a book series. It's based off the Oz books. So I think this was a movie that people needed. I mean, obviously, if you think of like historically where we went from the 1930s. So I think this was something that kind of helped in assistance with how people were feeling going into the next decade, for sure. So most of my like little thoughts and notes have to do kind of more alongside the analysis of like Wizard of Oz, or just kind of like allegories type thing. That's why like I kind of giggled a little bit when Joseph was like, I don't know, I always got like a weird feeling with this, because a lot of Wizard of Oz has been linked to like religious allegories. So like the road being linked to like, it's like the pathway, and then
Heaven's Gates, or
and then Oz is or the city is considered
City?
is considered heaven. So, and then a lot of people link it to like political stuff at the time as well. That one I kind of hit or miss.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think the main themes of this movie are really great. I mean, obviously Dorothy she's supposed to be more of a child. That's why when you said Shirley Temple should have played her, like I was like, well, that seems about more appropriate age-wise of Dorothy the character than like a 17-year-old Judy Garland playing her. But for the time, I mean, Judy Garland's a star. And she apparently went through a lot of stuff in this movie too.
Yeah.
So a lot of alleged abuse kind of thing. Like the Munchkins would like pinch her.
She was smacked by the director because she couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, because she could not stop laughing during the lions scene or something like that. And then they kept her on like drugs and stuff like that, like uppers, downers.
She was only allowed to eat soup and drink coffee to keep the weight down.
Her and
the witch. Yeah.
Yeah, Margaret Hamilton. So, some good stuff. Yeah. The
like,
snow,
dude.
the snow that was in the scene, the asbestos. Yeah, I was gonna say
That's crazy.
that's
It's fucking wild.
I think
They
like
did not give a fuck, bro. They're like, we're making this movie.
we're making this movie.
they're making the movie, and I
You're
think
gonna
like
be a big
even
star.
with
It's like,
Margaret Hamilton being set on fire because her green makeup was flammable. You're using copper-based makeup. Of course it's going to set on fire. And I was reading that. So she went to the hospital and they asked her to come back. And she was like, no. Like the hospital would not release her from her burn. So they had her stunt double fill in. And she was also set on
the
fire.
stunt double.
Yeah, the stunt
Well, no,
double
and
was
even when she did come back, they were like, okay, like we're doing this shit again. And she's like, no, thank you. So they're like, okay, we'll get the stunt double do it. And again, set on
double,
fire. Yeah, like it was just like a whole mess.
It was. I think there's just so many weird things that happened in this movie. I saw it for the first time like 4 or 5 years ago.
Really?
I've only seen The Wizard of Oz twice in my life.
damn.
Wow.
I never really cared to watch Wizard of Oz growing up. I was not that big into Wizard of Oz. I only liked Wicked. Like I never read the books. I didn't really care for much of like the story of Wizard of Oz. It wasn't until I watched Wicked and then I looked into it and I noticed how similar but not necessarily the same storyline. And I was like, I'm good. I don't really need to watch it. And then I watched it for the first time with you because you wanted to watch it. And then we watched it and I was just like, I'm good. I think it's also like with all like the disturbing things that I know about the film, I was like, I don't want to watch this movie. Like I'm very uncomfortable watching this movie. Why, I don't know, but it just makes me very uncomfortable watching it.
I think knowing stuff about it can make you feel uncomfortable, but I think that just there's so much behind this movie that brings a lot to people. Like there's so much with this movie that has been parodied. It's been like it's such an influential movie in so many terms of like people take inspiration with their music, their writing, other movies. I mean, even this movie took inspiration from like Snow White and stuff, and kind of made it its own. I mean, it's shown in Technicolor. So I feel like with this, like I said before, there's a lot of kind of themes. There's a lot of allegories with this movie, and I think that's where a lot of people end up kind of connecting with this a lot. Like with this, you have like Dorothy, who's this character that's coming from like this, this land where like she's, basically the whole story starts and revolves around like her dog, right? Yep. And that's like for me why this whole movie, like from my perspective, fuck that dog. Fuck Toto. Like, why is that? Especially now that I know he got paid that much. Like, I mean, it's not the actor's fault. Dog actor, whatever. But like, Toto's a menace. Like, the whole reason is like, Toto bit somebody, and they're trying to get the dog back to put it down. Like, what happens if a dog bites a stranger on the street or like
Usually what happens.
Usually, that's usually what happens, right? So I feel like between that and like there's two different instances where like Toto escapes. The first time is when they're in Kansas, and then there's a secondary time when they're in Oz. Like, and he just escapes, and like I feel like the whole story, like none of this would have really happened had not for Toto.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I mean, terriers are a rambunctious breed.
They
Oh my gosh, Toto just seems like just a menace. So, and then and then when the wizard and they're like he's trying to leave on the balloon, he's like, "Oh, I'll take you back. Like I'm from Kansas, I'll take you back." And she's like, "Oh, that sounds great." And they get in the basket, and Toto
just
jumps
dips.
out. She just ruined a free ride back to Kansas.
Yeah.
Like Toto's a menace.
Yeah. Can't be
menace
tamed.
to society.
Yeah, he's a menace to
He was
society.
flushed in cash. He didn't care.
With cash. So yeah, I don't know. The more I watch this movie, the more I'm just like, damn dog, like just ruining everything.
Poor woman.
I wrote down a few questions because I just like I always think this, and I think this during Wicked too, which is like, so what happens with like Alphaba or the Wicked Witch? How does she shower?
See, this is the question I've had
I won't-
for years.
I won't answer the question as to why the water, because you don't know what happens in Wicked. You don't know how Wicked ends.
Yeah.
So I will not answer that question.
But I mean, in this movie
But
alone,
in this movie
Yeah.
alone,
she gets a bucket of water thrown on her. So you could, without Wicked,
She a dirty witch.
you could argue.
She got that stink
How
on her.
does she shower?
So I didn't read the book The Wizard of Oz, but I did read the Wicked book.
Mhm.
The witch, Elphaba, and like all the witches in Wicked, they're allergic to water.
So how do they shower?
I don't know. Magic.
That's my question. I'm not asking like why. It's more just how do they shower?
That's a great
How do they
point.
stay clean?
No, magic.
I just question how they shower.
That's the answer
you know?
to everything.
Yeah.
Magic.
It's
And
Yeah,
words.
I get it, and I'm behind. Like I know all the things that I know. I'll save it because I don't want to spoil it for Joseph. But I just based off just this movie, if you've only seen Wizard of Oz, and she gets a bucket of water thrown on her, just out of curiosity, how does she shower? Powder, because I know they have like the
Magic.
powder shower. Yeah, does she just go clean?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Magic.
Maybe it's
Also,
she
like,
has
that's
special
ridiculous.
magical
Like,
water.
I can just be dropping buckets of water in her castle. It's just like,
Yeah. Glinda also tells Dorothy that she had the power all along with the shoes to go home,
yes.
and that she just had to figure it out on her own.
I think she needed to learn the lesson of like, or like teach herself that there's no place like home. Because remember how she's like, I want to go somewhere over the rainbow. I don't want to be here in this setting with my aunt and my uncle. But then she realizes that she does once she meets the one guy. Forgot his name.
The wizard?
Yes. Yeah. But before he's like, when he's about to travel, when he's like looking into the
the
crystal ball and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like telling him like, yeah, your Aunt May's sick. She's holding her chest. She's crying. She runs back. And then, but like if she always wanted to go home, then she could have just kind of went home.
Well, I
early
feel
on.
my point is more so like Glinda said, hey, you've always had the power. You just had to figure it out on your own. But I feel like her saying that is her saying, oh, no, I just like she just told her.
Yeah.
Like she didn't figure it out on her own. Like, oh, it was the shoes the whole time. No, Glinda just was like, hey, you know those shoes that you've been wearing? That's what's going to take you home. And she
Yeah.
didn't figure that on her own. Glinda
There's also
just told her.
specific rules to it. You have to like
There's such
click your
specific
heels
rules.
to it.
Yeah,
Like
like
it's
how
not
you
like, you just
know.
be like, I want to go home, and then you're like, you have to actually do a step
Yeah.
to get to that point. So I don't. Glenda's just like in the background, just watching all this take place and being like, she'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah,
If
like,
not, I'll
she's
get
got
to
it.
her. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then she ends up just taking her home in the like anyway, essentially helping her get home.
Yeah.
So does that mean that the wizard couldn't have taken her home in the balloon? I'm very like
I mean,
up in
if
the
Toto
air.
didn't escape. The
Well, no,
wizard
but then
didn't
The
know.
wizard
but
never
then
make it
what
back
we
to
know
Kansas or
from
wherever he was from.
like spoilers for
Nebraska.
Wicked, but like from what we know from Wicked, the wizard is not all powerful, all all
Phony.
being. He's a phony. So like,
big fan.
where was he going with that balloon?
They addressed
Detroit.
it. They
Omaha.
addressed it in Wizard of Oz. Is that so? He's from Nebraska. He was doing his weird circus, whatever he's doing,
Yeah.
part of, and then he got something happened, and then he ended up in Oz. And because he fell from the sky or whatever it is, they deemed him as the wizard,
Well, yeah, and he
And
could
he
read.
just-
Yeah, he could
yeah.
read the book or whatever.
the grim, whatever it's called.
Yeah. I know we've talked about a few films that were preserved by the Library of Congress and the U.S. National Film Registry. Obviously, this is one of them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like we're doing a lot of nitpicking and we're asking a lot of questions and doing all that stuff, but I don't want to take away from just like what this film obviously means to like Joseph. I know growing up, you really appreciated this movie.
That and like also the appreciation after it, like all the bad stuff that happened behind the scenes, obviously terrible. You know, does it change perspectives? Obviously, I mean, you're watching a film that was like made during like torturous events, pretty much for some of these actors and talents. But like for me, like it changed film in the way things were edited, color, sound effects, just for motion pictures and cinema. It's a huge game changer.
Yep.
It's like a big point. Like if you're ever mapping out like movie history, you have to talk about Wizard of Oz. It's a must to be discussed in the history of cinema.
Yeah.
So that's where my appreciation comes for the film and the totality of what the film is.
Yeah. So since this one is technically a musical, what was your favorite or least favorite song? I'm gonna start with you, Ryan. I don't know the names of any of the songs except for one song.
We're off to see the wizard. It's great.
Nice.
There's a nice
Catchy.
melody to it. It's
I feel like
catchy,
it's very notable.
whimsical,
Yeah,
it's fun.
it's very notable.
Yeah, but as far as like single characters songs, like Somewhere Over the Rainbows, the
Classic.
banger from
Yeah.
that movie for sure.
I mean, that it won Academy Award.
Yes.
Which was it was almost cut out of the film because they said it degraded Judy Garland because she was singing in a barnyard. This is from the studio. Mind you,
with how they treated her.
exactly. That's what I was about to say. From all
Come
the things
on.
that happened, the only reason
Yeah, get off
it
it.
stayed in the film is because the director had to fight to keep
Yeah.
it in the film.
No, thank you.
Well, like you're gonna degrade her because she's in a barnyard. What about all the other atrocious things you're doing to this poor kid?
I know.
Yeah, no. I'm good.
Joseph,
It's Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
not the lollipop song.
Lollipop.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
forgot
hate
about
that song.
I hate.
I hate
it's
that
a
song.
banger. No, it's the one that gets stuck in my head the most. But Somewhere Over the Rainbow for sure.
Marissa.
I'm trying to remember the name of it. I can't really think of it. Or no, I can't. It's the name of the song. It's the main lyric. The Scarecrow, the If I Only Had a Brain. That one always gets stuck in my head. I have like a random like personal story too, and I won't give out names, but we had a friend of the family, and the wife, when the husband was always doing something kind of dumb, she would hum If I Only Had a Brain around her husband, just kind of like piss him off a little bit. So that's like kind of a fun thing, but I feel like that song always gets stuck in my head. Lollipop Gang, I don't care about that song. Somewhere Over the Rainbow is arguably the best song. But like I like the Scarecrow. I think he's a fun character. He's probably like my, I guess, like favorite between the three. I mean, the lion's fun, but like he gets a little annoying sometimes.
It's Dorothy's favorite too.
Oh yeah, she misses him the
The
most.
most in front of the other two.
I just remember the Family Guy. Yeah, they're just like, well, what the fuck, man? What's wrong with us?
I agree I actually agree with you. As much as I love Somewhere Over the Rainbow, I do love the Scarecrow's song.
It's just fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like, especially
it's very light.
watching it again last week when we watched it. It was just the one that got stuck in my head, and I was like, I kinda prefer it over Somewhere Over the Rainbow. But I agree, like the lion. Oh God, I hated.
I like this song.
His song was catchy, but
Not when they find him, but when like
but I
right before
could-
they're gonna see the wizard.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
when he's like all nicely groomed. Like
Yeah.
I just something about him just I can't get behind the lion. Which my one fun fact for the movie is that so MGM obviously made the movie. MGM's logo is a lion. They originally wanted the role of the lion to go to the lion in their logo and not hire somebody dressed up in an actual lion
Ooh,
suit
that.
to be
That's
the
a little
lion.
tricky.
It would have been
That
a lot
could
more
get
death.
that could
Oh,
get a
yeah.
little tricky.
Film your line, do your lines in front of this.
Has anyone seen Toto? Where's Toto?
Just a burp.
Just gone.
Yeah, when I read that, I was like, wait, what? They wanted an actual lion. The lion specifically from their logo.
No fucking way.
Oh, I know this is more so about Wicked, but I did bring this up to Ryan, and I don't know if you guys noticed in the opening of the movie that you do see Dorothy, the
Yes.
Tin Man, and everything, and the walking the path. He didn't notice that, and I was like, oh, you
Oh,
got to
dude.
see it because you see like a little
I
Toto,
can't.
and then you see and you see
Oh,
like
my.
the lion walking on the four paw. I don't know. I just thought it was
I
really
knew
cute.
they were in the movie. You see them in the beginning of the movie or whatever it is, because they were in one of the trailers.
They didn't show that shot. The first trailer of Wicked, you see them in front of the wizard, but they did not show that in the actual film, which they're probably saving it for.
Yeah, which makes it more
they'll
exciting.
save it. Yeah, they'll save it for the second one. I know I kind of mentioned the religious allegories and everything like that before, but main themes for The Wizard of Oz are very much in place in terms of finding a place of belonging, finding yourself, obviously good triumphs over evil kind of thing, and then just bringing that confidence level. I think each of the characters that she does find, the Tin Man, the Lion, and the Scarecrow, obviously each of them have their own things that they're trying to find, in which Dorothy is also trying to find herself, and also trying to get back home. So I just feel like, once again, you're kind of faced with not just like an enjoyable like storyline, but you're also kind of stuck with like, you know, these moralistic kind of views, these kind of like real life situations. Like I kind of mentioned the Great Depression, where, you know, for a lot of these people who are seeing it from in the 1939, they're getting this taste of escapism away from, you know, and so is Dorothy. Like Dorothy is very much like going from her home, which is, you know, very black and white, very boring, very drab, very poor, going into this colorful, bright world where, you know, you don't have to think about, you know, rent. You don't have to think about the evil witch. Well, you have to think about the evil witch, but you don't have to think about your neighbor, you know, like you're faced with not a whole lot. And I think once we get into Return to Oz, we'll see a lot of those kind of similar things, which I know we'll get into to the return, but I just want to like really cement that there is a lot more to the Wizard of Oz than just like your basic like book to movie adaptation. That there are a lot of different like views for this, a lot of different like kind of analysis for this movie that kind of hit a little bit closer to I guess like a psychological view. So.
Does anyone have anything else?
I have a few more. According to the U.S. Library of Congress, this is the most viewed movie of all time.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
I could say that. Yeah.
And then just one for me, Dark Side of the Rainbow. I don't know if anybody has heard of that.
It's a fucking great time.
Dude.
A great time.
I watched it in English class. my senior year, sorry, I was like really quick. My senior year in high school, my teacher was like, you guys don't give a fuck about what's happening in the next 6 months. You're graduating. He's like, so we're going to study literally like the history of rock and roll. So like we studied everything from like the Beatles, the Stones, like all the way up until like the late 80s. And there was a scene where he's like, all right, we're going to put on this and he literally just put on the TV and we just listened to Pink Floyd and watched. That was my senior lit class. So.
That's actually amazing. That's
nice.
dope.
He was a cool teacher. He was great.
I experience it once a year just because it's kind of relaxing for me sometimes. So obviously, just for the story, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. When you start that album and you start the movie from the MGM logo, the album and the movie practically go hand to hand. And I know the band has said like we did it. That was no intention of doing that. We didn't even care about Wizard of Oz at the time when we were making this album. But there's some moments that are like eerily just in sync with one another. And it just, to me, just listening to it like that, it kind of adds a little bit more to like even the creepiness of the film and like the other foreshadowing stuff that's happening behind. It just adds to the myth of what is the Wizard of Oz movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. It's awesome. They have the whole thing already in sync on YouTube. So go check that out.
Easy viewing.
Check it out after you watch this video.
Yes, absolutely.
Do we want to rate the movie
Sure,
if anyone
yeah.
has nothing else? Ryan, hit us with your rating.
So it's iconic soundtrack, if you want to call it that, musical numbers wise, iconic. The fact that it, like using color technology that they had now is amazing. I would rate this movie very highly, but then learning the tragic like backstory and the making of this, it really makes me want to bring it down more. And I assume that as we go on this journey and watch other movies, that there are other stories that are very similar to this as well. I'll just give it a 4.
Okay.
Because it's, you know, like I would rate it higher, but I don't know. There's things that bring it down for me a little bit. 4.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. This movie is historical. It's what it added to movies. I already went to that rant, but I have a love for it just because of family reasons. But then all the other stuff, behind the scenes stuff, just sounds like a terrible fucking filming process, and just everybody that was involved, I feel bad for them, but it is one of the most important movies in cinema history. But I'm at a 4 out of 5 as well.
Marissa?
As much as I know we've talked about the whole lot of not great stuff that's happened behind the scenes, I'm going to try to rate this just on behalf of not just production value. I'm going to try to just go based off the storyline, what was produced, everything like that. Wow. Oh, okay.
He lost his
oh my
place.
God. I'm going to go based just off movie. I'm going to go off reaction. I first saw this movie with my sister. My sister has a love-hate relationship with this movie. She was a little terrified of the witch growing up, and I always kind of snickered at that because I'm the younger child. But I don't know. I think watching it with her, like when I think of this movie, I think of, I'm with Joseph. Like I think of my sister, and it just always makes me think of her, and in a good way now. And I'm thankful for that memory. I'm thankful for this movie. So I'm going to put it at a 4.5 just overall with all of the themes, the story itself. I mean, as much as the production value was kind of shitty, I think it, hopefully it was one of those movies where because of this, it went on to help create laws that, prevent things like that. And I think, in a world where they're making these movies, there's always going to be rules that we find even today, and not movie making, but just in your day-to-day work, there's always going to be things that we find that help us kind of create the safety barrier between employee and employer, if you will.
Did you rate it?
Yeah, 4.5.
Oh,
4.5. Yeah, it's a great movie.
I can't separate the disturbingness of the film and the film itself for me. And again, like, I've only seen it twice in my entire life. I'm going to give this movie a 3 out of 5. And it's a very generous 3 out of 5 for this movie for me. There's a lot of things that I can't get behind, like a lot of the things, like, and I'm only giving it a 3 because of how iconic of a movie it is to, like, movie cinema history, and being the first movie to be shot in Technicolor. Just not, it's not my cup of tea, honestly. I think I'm the only person that does not enjoy this movie that I've met in my life. I've not met a single person who.
Well, I mean, but like also, like, in your defense, you've just seen it, and it's like it's 2 times.
I saw it within the last 5 years.
I don't. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like my thing where, like, it's always on it was always like one of those movies that's always on TBS. Like, it's not my go-to movie. Like, if I'm like Saturday night, I've got it free, what movie am I putting in? It's not going to be Wizard of Oz. But like, if it was on TBS, I'll catch a little bit of it depending on where it is in the movie. I think everybody said it's basically iconic. It's been parodied. It's been, an inspiration to so much. Obviously the coloring. Everybody knows who Judy Garland is. Probably this is an addition because obviously she's had other film roles and music roles as well. But I don't know. I think that this movie just offers so much that a lot of movies in the future and that are coming after it can really just go off of. Like, I think it's a very inspirational film. So I don't know. I think it's a different time. I like a different generation too. Yeah, it's like different generation.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's great. I'm not saying that the asbestos is probably not killing some people, but and I'm not saying that Judy Garland deserved to be treated in any shape or form. I do know that the director felt bad about hitting her, and he actually asked everybody in the cast to punch him in the face. And when Judy Garland's turn came up, she gave him a kiss on the forehead instead.
Yeah.
So, and that actually makes me think more for her, like more highly of her.
Yes,
than him,
yeah, I was about to say that. It makes me like her
that
more
she's
than him.
forgiving.
Like,
Yeah, so
you
good
feel
job for her.
bad, bro. Like, come on.
And she got a very famous daughter. So
Yes. No.
Yes.
Who's still living?
Liza Minnelli
Yes.
is still alive. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, yes.
Which is also interesting because doesn't she play Dorothy in like an animated?
She voiced her in like
She
some.
might,
Yeah,
yeah.
she
Yeah, she
voiced her in
voiced
some type
Dorothy
of
in, like-
animated for like the 30-year anniversary or some
Yeah.
kind of anniversary for Wizard of Oz. She came back to play Dorothy.
Dorothy.
Not came back, but played Dorothy to honor her mother.
Yes. So now,
Love that.
let's get into the unofficial sequel for Wizard of Oz, Return to Oz.
What a different vibe this movie has.
Woo! I mean, is it?
It reminds me of another movie. It's a very of the time kind of movie from the 80s called The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. And it's a very, it like that. And you said Labyrinth, and I was like, yeah, it falls very much in that category of like creepy 80s movies to terrify children.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah, like a fantasy.
Crazy.
The fact that this was a Disney film.
It was definitely made at the same time as Black Cauldron.
That was that era of Disney that they were going for.
The Disney Renaissance era.
$28 million budget, made 11.1 million at the box office. Just had a really bad run at the box office. At one point, the director was fired a week into filming. Yeah, a weekend. I was there.
His name
Walter Murch.
Walter
Murch. He was fired a weekend into filming. He had to go talk to Francis Ford Coppola, Steven Spielberg, and George Lucas to get his job back. Lucas stepped up. He's like, "I'll do the movie if you can't do it." And then Disney was like, "We're just gonna give it to him because whatever. He's already so far ahead. He already wrote the script. He's already doing things that would need him. So we're gonna go with that." But the whole big thing about Lucas being there, they met somebody on set of Return to Oz.
Do you have his name? Do you have his name?
Yeah, I have his name.
Okay.
It's on the next page.
It's on the next page. I know, right? My bad. Rick McCallum, who ended up helping George start the road to making the prequels. No.
Interesting.
So we would not have gotten the prequels without the Return of Oz.
There you go.
That's how that all ended up happening. That was
Damn you, Return of Oz.
that was the whole
Return to Oz.
starting point for all that.
Well, you had a very interesting point.
I mean, you kind of touched a little bit on it, but Walter Murch is a sound designer as well, and he did all three Godfathers. So that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I was like, Joseph.
No.
It's like Joseph loves
It's
Godfather.
all connected.
Everything is.
Well, that's why when you were like, oh yeah, he's gonna go talk to
Fred,
Coppola,
yeah.
and that's why I was like, oh, he already knows. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal.
Coppola was like, I can't help you. Nobody gives me
shit going on.
Nobody gives me movies either.
I thought it was wild that George Lucas almost.
I'm working on
was the
making a
director
list.
for this film.
I'll do it.
I think it would have been a
Yeah.
little bit better and a little bit different. I think it could have. I think it still could have been dark for sure.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah, so
It would have
dark.
been along
Yeah.
the lines of
Yeah.
that, but it would have been, I don't know, maybe more whimsical. I don't know. Because the studio probably would have stepped in.
I think it would have
Senior
been.
George.
I think it maybe would have been about the same because I mean it picks up the whimsy at the end. Like it's really not like it's still. I mean think about it. Like Wizard of Oz is dark in the beginning. It's very black and white. It's very like everybody's sad. There's a tornado that destroys the town. Like there's a whole thing. So, but this is very much like one of those like female on an adventure. Like you mentioned Labyrinth. I personally thought Pan's Labyrinth that they did it better. And if you're looking at it side by side, also a dark kind of, spooky, not really for kids. This one is
I have a
absolutely
funny
more,
story about that
more for
because I
kids.
always thought Pan's Labyrinth was a kids movie, and it was on TV one time, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, is this little kids movie Pan's Labyrinth?" And then they shoot that guy in the face, and I was like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
that was so wrong, so wrong. What am I watching?"
I mean, Labyrinth is.
That's not what I thought this movie was.
Oh shit.
Yeah, this movie, I think I wrote it down like 3 times. I wrote down terrifying, dark, scary. Like, they're trying to give Dorothy shock therapy. Like,
Yeah, man. Those first
it gets
few minutes.
in it real
hard.
deep. It gets in it real
Some
deep.
choices in it.
When you start hearing the people screaming, like, well, she's about to get like the electroshock.
Yes.
You're like, what? This is Disney, dude. Like, what is happening here? Like, the Wheelers, terrifying.
Oh,
their
that's
laugh,
their
great
laughs
laugh
are
though.
so
Dude,
spooky.
it's a great, like,
Oh, it's
terrifying laugh.
crazy.
The Gnome King, that shit was the rocks, like the
Oh,
face,
yeah,
the
that was
facials,
so
like in the rocks.
See, that's
I'm
giving
like,
me like Jim Henson almost vibes. Is the Rock with Gnome King, Rocky, whatever.
I didn't know this movie existed until last week. That's when I found out that this movie
Yes.
existed.
Ooh.
Thank you, TikTok, for ruining my nightmares for a week because of this stupid movie.
Ruining or adding to?
I had added to it.
Fueling that fire.
Ryan actually brought up a very good question when we started watching this movie, which was, how did Dorothy get younger?
That was my question when I first watched it too. I was like, can I know who her doctors are? Because she looks great for...
From going to
Younger.
17 to 9 or whatever, yeah.
Which is funny because when they were casting Dorothy, they were looking for somebody that looked like Judy Garland's long lost cousin. Yeah.
They missed the
They
mark.
settled on
It's
Vicky Valancourt.
yeah, it's Fairuza Balk, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Fairuza Balk, and I know her mostly from The Craft, but
Yeah.
I know that you're like, are you trying to tell me that's Vicky Valancourt?
Yeah, I lost my shit a little bit.
Yeah, he lost it.
Because
for a
then I
minute.
saw it and I was like, oh my God.
yeah,
Vicky Valancourt, show me her boobies and I like them too.
Christopher Lloyd was almost cast as the Gnome King at one point. They offered him the role. He turned it down. He had other
Do you know why?
pictures going on in the 80s.
Was it Back to the Future? God, can you imagine if he turned down Back to the Future for this garbage instead?
Marty, I can't do it. I'm gonna go be the Gnome King.
So I know that the Mooney had mentioned that this is an unofficial sequel to The Wizard of Oz. That is true, but this movie is more based on the other books from the Oz series.
Yes, it's books 2 and 3.
Yeah, so it's more of a collection, more based off the book series. So no, not necessarily picking up off of that, but it definitely has like obviously the connections. But to be real, like thinking about the concept of this movie, it makes sense to me. Like, can you imagine Dorothy? Like, what happens when Dorothy comes back from Oz and she's like with Auntie Em or whatever? Like, is she gonna mention like any of the stuff that she went through? Like, is she gonna be like, oh my God, Auntie Em, you'll never guess where I just was and blah blah blah? Like, wouldn't you put like if Joseph woke up from a nap and was like, oh my God, I was in this place, you'll never guess, there were like little people everywhere, and there were, am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, that's the
Is that the correct?
correct
Okay,
term,
I was
yes.
like, I was just like,
I
oh
believe
wait, I said it, and then I was like,
dwarf
oh no.
person are the preferred
Yeah, it's a preferred term. Okay, cool. And there was, a talking lion, and there was a man made of aluminum or some nonsense. Like, I'd be like, were you high? And then he's like, no, it was real.
Robin was with me
And then
the
he's
whole
just
time.
like, he's looking at Munira, and he's like, I gotta go back. My friends are in trouble. We'd be like, yeah, buddy, sure.
Like, he fell from the sky. It
Yeah.
says Oz. Look.
Oh yeah, and then your talking chicken gave you the key. Sure thing, bud.
electroshock therapy.
Yeah,
Immediate-
immediate. Yeah, immediate.
Straight to
electric-
jail.
Straight to jail.
I like that was where they went though. It was like electric shock therapy, but yeah, I think this movie takes place at the late 1800s, early 1900s. So I mean, what else was there?
Well, like the uncle wants to get rid of her in the beginning. She's like, I can't. It's my sister's child. And I'm like, Jesus, man. Like they're just that done with Dorothy at that point.
Yeah, they're just
Yeah,
over
just
it.
get rid of her.
I
They're
just
just
want to
over it.
know, like, they love her in the first one. In this, I know it's not
Yeah,
technically
yeah.
a sequel, but it's just like, what did she do to them that made her just basically like, you know, fuck this child.
Shut up about Oz.
Yeah, she's going on and on about it. She's got to help her friends.
Yes.
She's got to
be
help her
in
friends.
there.
The only connection really with this one and the 39 Wizard of Oz is that Disney had to pay MGM royalties for the ruby slippers.
Damn it,
Yeah,
shows.
because the shoes are originally silver in the books.
Yep.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's stupid.
Which is nice that they kept it silver and Wicked.
I appreciated that. I saw that. And I was like, oh yeah, that's good. Just mentioning.
Yeah, because she pulls out like ruby ones and goes, nah, not those. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
out the other
I thought that was fun. That was
Yeah.
a good time. We're
Um,
blending.
I know that since you brought up the Disney thing with MGM, so my fun fact for this movie is that this is the first Disney movie from the logo that we all now know and love, where you have the rainbow behind the Disneyland castle.
'Cause it's
So
somewhere
they
over the
did
rainbow?
it. They did it because of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and ever
Nailed it.
since then, it's been a classic for every single Disney movie where you have the castle with the rainbow. So I thought that was cool. It's the only
I
good thing
feel
that
like
came out of this movie.
there's like a conspiracy theory that I could just warp into that of the castle really being like a faux pas for like the Emerald City, and that and then you could connect the wizard.
Walt is Oz.
No, you could connect Walt to, oh man, there's so much that you could go down. Which, like, getting into like the analysis of this movie, just I think for this one, I don't know, I really connect with the whole, like, I really connect with the aunt and the uncle of just kind of like, okay, like, this is a child who's seen some scary stuff. She's going through some scary stuff, like obviously for the time frame where they're saying the tornado tore up, the house and the town and everything like that. And seeing that as a little kid is terrifying, having your home ripped away. And then, to make up this kind of like dreamlike scenario, or like seeing things or having these things go on in your dreams. This is a very much like dreams versus reality situation where, you have a lot of these connecting factors where the doctors that she's seeing and then even the machines that she's seeing in the hospital to get the electric shock therapy are now in Oz. So there's really much a connection of, you know, as a child, you know, the scary things that you're seeing, you're now envisioning in your dreams when you go to sleep at night. And I think that like psychology like is kind of fun, like fun thought process, especially because this is a kids movie and there's terrifying things in this movie. So what are kids dreaming about after witnessing this dreamlike situation, like with your wheelers and your and everything like that.
People.
Even the pumpkin, like I know you said you liked Jack. Was it Jack?
Jack Pumpkin.
Yeah,
I do like the
I
character design.
even he's like a little terrifying too.
It is definitely spooky.
Like this whole
Yeah.
movie is
Spooky.
nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
Why don't even Scarecrow's design like you're like what the fuck happened to him? I was like,
God,
Oh, yeah.
Scarecrow.
The Tin Man when she comes around the corner
it
and the
just-
axe and you're oh.
I know you had you still have that fun fact about Jack the pumpkin dude?
Yeah. So, our lovely director Tim Burton got inspiration of The Nightmare Before Christmas after watching Return to Oz. So that's where we got
Like
Jack
Jack
Pumpkin.
the Skeleton's
We would never have gotten Jack
based off of that.
Skellington.
Return to Oz strikes again.
See, brought us the prequel, Star Wars prequels.
We
Night
never
Before
got that pod
Christmas.
racing.
I think what we're really saying here is that
It's
this
a
is an
very
important
important
movie.
Yeah.
Just like the Wizard of Oz. This is
So
the
such an important movie.
It's so disturbing.
So I know I mentioned in when we were talking about the Wizard of Oz that Dorothy is facing a lot of like real world situations. There's a lot of like morals and like a lot of themes here. So in this one, Dorothy is kind of facing the reality of coming home, right? It's a very almost warlike kind of
I was gonna say the
yeah,
same
it's
thing.
very like war, like coming home from like such a dark well, for in hers it's a little bit switched, right? Like she instead of coming home to a better place from a darker place, she is coming home and it's a lot more worse for wear. She's kind of going through you know, these growing up kind of metaphors where she is now a child. So she's faced with, you know, do I stay in the real world with my uncle and my aunt and work on the farm and do all these chores, or, you know, do I continue to try to go back to Oz and just hang out with my friends and like be cheery and fun and you know, and help them and do these things. And I feel like that's something that we can all relate to, especially in a growing up sense. You know, we all get to the point where, you know, we have to face becoming an adult versus staying a kid, or even if you're already an adult and you want to stay a kid. I think that that's something that's very hard home hitting.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is where I took this movie as like an ode to Labyrinth, where it's pretty much like a coming of age story of the transition from like, I guess, childhood to like adolescence, or like finding that balance of like growing up doesn't necessarily mean you're giving everything that you love from your childhood, but just trying to find like a balance between growing up and your adult life, you're adulting, but you can also be young and childish at the same time, just like finding that perfect balance.
Yeah.
But yeah, I this movie still disturbs me.
was nominated for an Oscar.
This movie?
Yeah.
For what?
Sound effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Alright.
I'll give it. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I'll give it to it. I'll give it to it.
No, did have an Oscar now. So
I like
add
in
the resume.
I like in the first movie that she's all about like, Toto, where's Toto? Toto,
Mm.
what's going on with Toto? We have to save Toto. We have to go get Toto. And in this movie, she's like, Toto, go home. Get out of here.
I got a
I
chicken.
don't like you. Get out of here. And then Ryan's like, isn't it a different dog? Like it looks.
Yeah.
yes.
It looks like that.
Obviously,
It looks like our
different
family dog. Yeah.
But
I was like-
also, it's a much different type of dog.
Different.
yeah, you said it looks like our family dog.
Yeah,
Like
it
it's
looks
just
like Archie for sure.
yeah, like just kind of like get out of here, Toto. I mean, I support it because fuck that dog. But
I have a question.
I thought she was like shocked. Like, what do you mean?
Here's a statue. of
Like,
kid.
no, get out of here. Fuck
Toto's
Toto.
annoying.
But Toto's a menace. I'm stick with it. Toto's a menace to society.
Does the chicken talk when in Kansas, or is it just when she goes?
It's
to
when
Oz?
she
It's when
goes
she
to Oz,
goes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was baking a cake at the same time while watching this, because I was like, this movie's disturbing. I can't pay attention.
She had to
to
do
it.
something happy.
I had to do something that makes me happy, which was making dessert.
I mean, the voice work was
thought
pretty
the voice
decent.
was
Yeah,
decent.
1985.
Yes.
Yes,
1985. Yeah,
1985.
decent. Not bad.
I think Dorothy for this one had an interesting choice of sidekicks, companions,
She had the discount sidekicks.
yeah, like
Can you get the Tin Man? No, we can get the Aluminum Man.
We got the B Squad.
Yeah.
seriously.
Can you get the Pumpkin King? Now we got Squash Boy over here. Oh,
I think like with I was telling Joseph when we were watching it, like
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. What's the name of the upgraded round Tin Man? What's his
TikTok.
Name?
TikTok.
TikTok.
Dude,
Shout out to TikTok.
TikTok is the most useless psychic. So I was like, yeah, I get it. You're smart, but one, you have to constantly wind him up. He's slow as fuck. Just
Oh yeah, when
wobbling.
she's getting captured by the one,
Yeah.
the
Moby,
the headless lady.
which is like the headless horseman lady.
With all those heads and like
Terrifying.
the
Yeah.
Oh, that's nightmare. Yeah, that's nightmare
Yeah,
fuel there
yeah.
too.
That and then the makeshift.
Oh, the moose thing.
The moose head.
Oh,
That
yeah.
gave me like for some reason like bed knobs and broomsticks
Yes.
kind of vibes. I have no idea why it did. I know you look at me that way, like
No, I was like trying to think of which part because it's been a while.
it's like a flying, like
No,
it's like a weird moose thing.
It's very interesting.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
think,
Yeah,
like,
no lion, you got a moose.
You got the moose.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
moose. Not even a full moose. You got a moose head.
No dog.
Yeah, just
got
put on your
chicken.
slippers. Oh, we don't have slippers. Put on the Crocs.
Yeah, put on your ruby red Crocs.
Your red
them on
apple.
actually
Your
straight
red,
up.
Click them together.
red apple Crocs.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. What is it? I forget what Dorothy says. Like even when like TikTok breaks down, or she's like, "Oh no, I must have wasted all my energy fighting off the,
Oh, something like he wasted all his energy fighting off the Wheelers or something.
Yeah, but she says something very specific, and she says it a few times in the movie where she says like,
Oh, something like it's not your fault.
Or you can't do much about it. Or you
yeah,
can't-
there's not much you can do about
while
it.
they're
Like,
falling
and,
to
Just
their
like
death.
4
like
times.
yeah, and like
Doesn't matter
what?
now.
I don't know what kind of kid says that.
I thought something
So
was
morbid,
gonna
you
happen.
freaking-
It's a very
Like I don't. I think yeah. Like whenever she says like that same sentence.
whatever
like,
she
you
says.
repeat-
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something dumb like that.
I feel like I was just like I was waiting for the ending of the movie. I was like, is anything gonna happen? Because she constantly says
kept
it,
saying
like,
this. Yeah.
It's not your fault. Like
There's nothing much you can do about it now, or something
I
like
know
that.
what
Or,
bothered you too was Pumpkinhead, dude. Kept calling her mom. It really
Fucking
bothered
disturbing.
me. She was like,
yeah, it's a little mommy.
it just happened
Mommy
like a lot of
issue.
times where I'm like,
Mommy
"God,
issue
you know,
thing."
I'm
which
like,
is like
I'm
I get that like she's her and Uzma, whatever her name is.
I think it's
Uzma.
I think it's Uzma. It's
I get that they
OZUMA.
they like
Ozempic, so.
Princess Ozempic.
that they're
Ozempic.
you know.
Oz Ozempic. Ooh. I'm just gonna make I'm gonna make
looking
this
at-
whole thing.
Oh, it happens to people all the time. No, not that one.
No.
No, it wasn't like that. It was something
Not
like you can't do nothing
it's something
about
that-
it.
it's
Not much
not
you can do
yeah,
about it now.
yeah, it's like
Something that.
Yeah.
not much you can do about it now, or some like
Yeah.
it's some stupid. Anyway, it
It just
doesn't.
happened
Yeah.
every time there was like
She
a
just kept
disaster
saying
or
it,
something.
and I'm just like, what kid is saying this type of sentence? Like they're usually saying like, oh no, don't worry about. Like when we say like when something happens and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Your natural response is like, oh, no worries, or like, don't worry about it. Like natural response of
Yeah.
just like, oh, it's okay.
She's falling from the sky. And she's like, nah, you can't
I
do
knew
much
she said
about
that. Yeah,
it,
there's
man,
not
but-
much you can do now.
Yeah. It's like, wait, so credits?
It's some stuff. Oh God, I should have written the line
You're
down.
not
It was so
gonna-
stupid.
She's trying to pull it.
Oh, this is so stupid. Yeah, I mostly remember the Wheelers. That was the one
Yeah.
thing that I remember. The Beware the Wheelers, and
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, this movie.
And then like the ending where they talk about the place got burned down because of a lightning strike, and then the other doctor's going to jail, and then the uncle wants her now. He's like, "Oh, we still thought we found you. Look, I found her. I'm so happy." And then like you see the other.
It wrapped up
like,
really well
yes,
somehow.
Yeah, and then just the other lady going to jail. I'm like, she didn't die in the fire. I'm like, I was like, I don't.
It
It's a lot.
Did they show? Maybe I missed it. Did they show the nurse that helped her?
Wasn't it not a nurse either? Wasn't
Escape?
it a patient?
It was.
It was
Ozma.
Ozempic.
The little
Ozma.
girl is the one who helped her escape.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what happened? Oh, she go. Okay,
Yes.
yeah, I got
She
it. Okay, yeah,
becomes.
got it.
She's the
And
princess.
then-
I was like, wait. I was like, hang on. I'm trying to.
I love the explanation too. How the doctor, he stayed back with his machine. I'm like, okay, dude. Like,
The electric shock therapy
Yeah.
machine.
And this is his face. And this is his, and obviously.
So I was
this is
thinking
his
more,
mouth.
what is it, like a lobotomy? That's what I thought. I was like, oh, they're going to lobotomize the
That's
heck out of this
literally
girl.
what I
I was
told her.
like, damn,
I'm
this
like,
is
"You're gonna
dark.
lobotomy me right now, man."
I don't know. I kind of love it. It's definitely not a kid's. It's not a kid's movie, like at all. I don't think that I feel like there's something to be done like with this kind of concept, very much of Pan's Labyrinthy kind of thing, or Alice in Wonderland if you want to go that route. And I feel like we could almost use an Academy Award level movie that is very much around this like line of like a female like, you know, journey, female adventure kind of like finding yourself thing. I feel like there's a very artistic way that this could be done that's very Wizard of Oz like.
Well, depending on how well this does, which was projected to do really well, we're probably going to get some of that. Like, there's probably going to be a TV series out of this.
I don't feel like Wicked being an Oscar-worthy movie. Songs, maybe, but think, the songs are the same. They're not their songs.
I think it's just gonna be like visuals.
I don't think they actually can get nominated for song because it has to be an original song, and none of those songs are.
No, original. It won't get like a best original or anything like that. But maybe like sound editing.
Maybe or like
set design.
Set design, costume design,
costume,
makeup,
I think,
stuff like that.
Maybe costumes for sure, but I don't even know.
Suicide Squad could win that. I'm pretty sure.
Oscar nominated. Or Oscar winning.
Oscar winning Suicide Squad.
For a gator?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
yeah, for him.
Yeah, Killer Croc.
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel like it will be nominated for stuff like that. I think that's going to be its average.
We're getting into
off
too
topic
much.
a little
we're getting
bit too.
I know. Mooney's still trying to search for that.
I don't think we're going to find it. But if you guys know it, please comment down below so we can remember what it is.
There's not much I can do about it now.
Yeah. Disney also spent
Is that what it is? There's not much you can do about it now? Yeah. I was like, oh, God.
That one. Woo!
So, whew.
Not gonna lie, I thought you were just saying that. I thought you were just like,
that's what it is.
Yeah.
She's like, well, nah, if I could. Yeah. Anybody else?
Thank you, IMDb.
No, I mean,
I feel like we
touched
touched
this one.
Yeah, I would just
Ryan, hit us with it.
This one, not as high. Not as high. I mean, they did something interesting, and I can commend them for that with trying to go in a different direction that's maybe closer to the source material.
Yeah.
So for that, you know, it's commendable. I would probably give this 2.5.
Yeah.
To a strong 3. Light 2.5 to a strong. I would say 2.5 just to be fair, but that's where I'm at with this.
Joseph.
Some of the effects are pretty cool. The visual effects I liked.
Stop motion.
Yeah, stop motion stuff. There were some cool moments in this film, but that for me, that was like the high. The lows are really low. The story is kind of wonky to me. The cast I'm very indifferent about it. But I'm at 2.5. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It's just an okayish movie that has terrifying elements that I don't know kids should watch. But hey, man, it's a Disney film, so whatever. But yeah, 2.5.
Marissa?
I'm gonna do the same. I was thinking like 2.5. I think it's terrifying. I love the concept of this. Which as a book series, I think you mentioned earlier, like if we got a TV series that had the Oz books, I think that would be phenomenal.
Yeah, you mentioned that yesterday too.
Yeah, I think that would be the best way to really like put together the source material. This movie could be something great, I think, but it's Disney. They're never going to go like super dark. They're never going to, you know, especially with something like this. I mean, they'll go dark because now they've acquired all of these other properties and stuff. Yeah, they've acquired all this stuff. But I think at this point, I don't know. I definitely remember this. I remember the Wheelers. I remember like the terrifying imagery. I remember the headless lady. But that's pretty much all that I got. Like if you take out those images, like it's just kind of whatever. It's a whatever movie. Like it doesn't need to be an hour and 50 minutes. It could have been less.
This movie's still terrifying to me after just watching it once. Like, I don't understand the choices that they made for this movie. Yes, it's terrifying. It's very terrifying for a Disney movie, and especially for a movie that's aimed for kids. Like, I can just imagine parents be like, "Oh, I grew up watching Wizard of Oz. Like, let me take my kid to go watch Return to Oz if it even ran in theaters or whatever." Terrifying. I would be terrified to make my kid watch this.
Yeah.
To me, this movie felt like Dorothy had a fever dream of Oz, and that is her
reality, man.
fever dream of Oz looked like in her head with the Wheelers and the headless lady and the talking weird rock thing. The terrifying scarecrow. I'm at a 1.
I feel like we should actually each individually give our ratings an extra point because of the significance of Return to Oz and how it affected later movies.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, because without Return to Oz,
Oh, I get what you're saying, because
Yeah.
then we wouldn't have the prequels.
No, then it's at a 2, and then it's too
we got
close
Attack
to
of the
Wizard of
Clones,
Oz
still at
for me.
2.5.
Yeah.
Because Attack of the Clones is
If-
2.5.
Stick with a 1. Otherwise, if you want to add the plus 1 point, I'm gonna give it a 0.
hey, at least it's lower than Aliens, you know.
There you guys
Yeah.
go. It's lower than Aliens.
It's lower than
I
Aliens.
hope so.
Bringing it back.
But yeah, it was just it honestly, like, it terrifies me. It creeps me out. It still creeps me out till now. Like, I could have gone my whole life without ever watching this movie or even knowing that this movie existed.
You're welcome.
I understand it
You're
has a lot
welcome.
of significance to movies that we all know and love. Question mark on if you guys love all the Star Wars
Well,
prequels.
I'm into it.
No, there are definitely.
No.
I think I've said this maybe on the podcast that they're definitely more prevalent now
Than they were
as
then.
the newer
Yes.
Skywalker stuff has come out. The prequels definitely hold up.
Disney was like, it could be worse.
Oh, yeah.
We're like, oh, it could be.
It could be worse, and we'll give that to you.
Yeah, we're like, oh.
Like, we didn't challenge you, man. No, we're not challenging
Didn't
you.
even want any more.
Please no.
Yeah. Just I have no words for this movie. That's where I'm at.
I think we've scarred Munera enough.
You have.
Yeah.
You have.
We'll do something light and fun next week.
We will.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Anyone have anything else for this
Nah.
question mark of a film? No.
We said what we needed to say.
We'll go have nightmares later. It'll be
If you
great.
haven't seen it, go watch it wherever you watch
It's on Disney
movies.
Plus.
Or
It is
wherever you
on-
watch movies.
It's on Disney Plus.
Or wherever you watch movies.
It's owned by
that,
Disney.
1, 2, 3 movie
You know,
doc.
our sponsor. Yeah.
It's on Disney Plus.
With that being said, I think that is going to be it for us for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And let us know what you think about Wizard of Oz, Return to Oz, and if you watched Wicked as well or excited for Wicked. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Until next time, the podcast, a show so sublime. Marissa, Mooney, Joseph, and Ryan signing off with glee. Join us next episode for more sequel revelry.